Welcome to HardScript.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. The hallway was dark when I stepped inside. Just the hum of the fridge and the low, rhythmic creak of the ceiling fan. The kids were already asleep, backpacks by the door, one sneaker tipped over like someone ran out of energy mid-step. I dropped my tool bag by the wall. My back hurt, head pounding from a double shift and traffic that didn't forgive exhaustion. I rubbed my temples, walked into the kitchen. She was in the living room, standing in front of the mirror, phone propped up on a tripod. The ring light made her skin glow like glass, perfect, polished, untouchable. She wasn't smiling at me. She was smiling at her screen. I said, "I'm exhausted." My head splitting. She didn't even turn. "Look at this," she said, flexing her stomach. "Abs are coming through. Maybe you should join me. Could help that gut." Then came the laugh. Quick. Light. Like it was nothing. But something cracked. Not loudly. Not like a break you can hear. Just a shift. Like a hairline fracture in concrete. Invisible at first. Until it grows. She didn't mean it with venom. That's what makes it worse. It was just normal to her now. Me, the tired man who pays the bills, changes the oil, cleans up after the dog, walks the youngest to school when she's editing at 2 a.m. The man who used to be her whole world but was now background noise in her next reel. I stood there for a second, waiting for her to look at me. Really look. She didn't. Just tilted her head, adjusted the lighting, and whispered, "Okay, guys, here's my night routine." That's when I walked out. Not to make a statement. Not to provoke a reaction. I just needed to breathe somewhere I wasn't invisible. Later that night, I lay on the couch. She never came in. Just stayed in the bedroom, editing, captioning, crafting perfection for people who didn't know her favorite song, her worst fears, or how long it took me to save for her first camera. And I thought, how do you compete with thousands of strangers who only see your highlight reel? You don't. You just wait. Until the cracks in the glass turn into something even she can't filter. The next evening, I made dinner. Not out of romance, out of rhythm. 2 kids, 1 working parent, school tomorrow. You don't stop just because the atmosphere's colder than the fridge. Pasta, garlic bread, a salad I knew the kids wouldn't touch but made anyway. She came downstairs halfway through, still in leggings and a cropped hoodie, phone in hand. Said something about engagement rates being up. I nodded. "Thought we could eat together," I said, placing the plates. "Just us 4. She glanced at the table, barely paused. "I still have to shoot a reel tonight. Brand collab. Can you sit with them? Maybe read Emma after? I'll be up late editing." No fight. No anger. Just a polite decline. And I watched it happen, the second fracture. Not big, not explosive, but real. It's funny. When you're younger, you imagine distance as a dramatic exit. Screaming. Doors slammed. People walking out. But in real life, it's more silent than that. It's sitting across from your kids while the other half of their parenthood live streams protein shakes upstairs. It's your daughter asking, "Is mommy eating later?" And your son, without looking up, saying, "She said she already ate." I cleared the plates when they were done, helped with homework, tucked them in. Emma whispered, "Can we go to the zoo soon?" Like last time, when mommy took photos of us and you held my slushie. That photo's still on her profile. Pinned. Hundreds of likes. None of them know she was yelling at me 10 minutes before the shot. I said, "Sure, baby. We'll go again soon." She smiled. Trusted me. That's the part that hurt most. Because I was still showing up. Still holding the frame. But more and more, it felt like I wasn't even in the picture. That night, I poured a drink and sat on the porch. The glow from upstairs spilled through the blinds, flickering like candlelight from a world I wasn't invited into. She posted another clip, workout tips and fast forward. I watched it once, then deleted my social media apps. Not out of spite, not out of jealousy, but because the woman in that video looked more like a concept than a partner. And I wasn't angry. I was just quietly done pretending we were in the same scene. The garage became my space. Not a retreat. Not a rebellion, just the last square footage in the house that still felt like mine. I'd work on the car, tinker with old tools, sort bolts I'd already sorted 10 times. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was about staying quiet long enough to hear myself think. One night, my oldest, Ryan, sat beside me. 9 years old. Smarter than I ever was at that age. He didn't ask much. Just held the flashlight while I worked under the hood. Then out of nowhere, he asked, "Is Mom coming with us this weekend? Or just you?" I didn't know what to say. I lied. Said, "She might be busy." He nodded like he already knew the answer. The next day, my buddy James came by. He's one of the few friends who knew what things really looked like in our house. No Instagram filters. No matching hoodies and beach captions. We sat on the back steps with beers. No music. Just night. He didn't sugarcoat anything. "Man," he said, "you've got two choices. You either pack a bag and go, or you stay and slowly vanish." I laughed. Dry? Bitter. He wasn't wrong. But what haunted me was that I hadn't felt angry in weeks. Just absent. And when absence becomes your baseline in your own home, that's not love. That's resignation. The next morning, Emma didn't want to go to school. She stood by the door with her tiny backpack, lower lip trembling. She promised to come to the recital, she said. But she said that last time, too. What do you say to a 6-year-old who's already learning what inconsistency feels like? You don't say anything. You hug them, pack their lunch, and you show up when someone else doesn't. That's what being a dad becomes in a house like that. Not a partnership. A backstop. That night, she got home late. Said something about a brand meeting running long. She asked why I looked tired. I said, "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." She laughed. That same tone, polished, amused, just above sincerity. She didn't know the next move had already begun forming. Not out of revenge, not out of drama, but because something in me, quiet, slow burning, was done sitting in a house full of echoes, pretending it was still a home. I found a place 2 blocks down. Small apartment above a mechanic's shop. Nothing fancy, just space. Clean walls. Quiet air. The kind that doesn't press against you with expectation. I didn't take much. Just the essentials. A mattress. My tools. A couple shirts. The kids' photos from my nightstand. Not because I was running. Because I was finally stopping. Stopping the pretending. Stopping the waiting. Stopping the hope that somehow, the version of her I loved 5 years ago would reappear in the doorway between gym selfies and sponsored tea ads. I didn't leave a note. I didn't make a speech. I packed while she was filming upstairs. Left while the ring light was still glowing. I sent a text an hour later. "I've moved out. I'm nearby for the kids. We'll talk soon." That was it. Her reply came minutes later. Paragraphs. Not of anger, but confusion. "You're seriously doing this now? No talk. No fight. What am I supposed to tell people?" And there it was. The real wound. Not that I left, but that I left cleanly. No storm. No collapse. No content. Just absence. She called 3 times that night. I didn't answer. There was nothing left to explain. When you've repeated yourself 1,000 ways without being heard, silence becomes the most honest version of your voice. The next day, I walked Ryan and Emma to school. Emma held my hand tighter than usual. Ryan kept glancing back at the house. "Are you coming back later?" he asked. I nodded. "Always for you too." He didn't smile, but he nodded back. Later, I sat alone on the apartment floor, staring at a blank wall. No pictures, no sound, no echo. And for the first time in months, I felt grounded. Not healed, just still. She posted something that night. A story with sad music and a caption about new chapters. Her face perfectly lit. Eyes glossy. Her followers flooded the comments. "You're so strong. Let them go if they can't grow with you. Queen, don't settle." But behind the curtain, she was texting me again. "You really just left like that?" Yes, because not every goodbye needs fireworks. Some just need peace. And distance. And the clarity that comes when you stop begging someone to notice that you're already fading. For a while, she thrived. At least, that's what it looked like. More videos. More comments. More polished morning routines and glistening gym check-ins. Her voice got lighter, her captions sharper. "I'm choosing me," she wrote under a photo where her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The kids stayed with me every other weekend. I didn't make it formal. No lawyers yet. Just structure. Emma adjusted fast. Ryan, not so much. He was quieter. Drew pictures of houses split in half. Said less. Watch more. I didn't badmouth her. Never did. Even when she forgot the recital. Even when she sent a text last minute, saying, "Running late, shoot went over." And Emma's eyes searched the crowd while holding her costume. I said, "Mommy's working. She wishes she could be here." I wanted to believe that myself. James checked in. Asked how I was holding up. I said fine. And I was. Not happy. Not broken. Just fine. In that strange middle where you stop expecting anything and start focusing on basics. Work. Rent. Groceries. The kids' smiles. Then one night, scrolling news without sound, I saw a video that made me pause. Her, on a podcast, sitting across from another influencer. Legs crossed, voice casual. Sometimes, she said, you just outgrow people. Not out of hate. Just evolution. They both laughed. Understanding nods. That word stuck. Evolution. Funny how easy it is to evolve when someone else's effort paid for your runway. I turned the phone off. Not out of anger. I'd burned through that long ago. Just out of understanding. That she didn't see what she lost, not yet. Because in her world, growth looked like attention. And in mine, it looked like showing up for parent-teacher night with no camera, no praise, just two steady hands holding the schedule. A few weeks later, Emma asked, "Why does Mommy always film herself eating?" I smiled. Maybe she wants to remember it. But I knew better. She didn't want to remember it. She wanted to be seen. By everyone. Except the ones who mattered when the phone wasn't recording. And I let her. Because sometimes, love is letting people have the spotlight until they realize the stage is empty. It started with a comment she ignored. One of her new followers, a guy, left a flirty line under a gym post. Then another. A fire emoji, a wink, an invitation masked as a joke. She liked the first one. Didn't respond to the second. But it didn't stop there. By the third week, he was sending direct messages. Screenshots started floating in private groups, hers and others. Some of it made its way to James, who passed it on to me, unsure if I'd want to know. I didn't want drama. But I needed to understand what direction her evolution was heading. Then came the line that made her flinch. "If I can't have you, no one should." It came after a live stream where she laughed off someone's compliment and mentioned she was a mom. Just that, a casual throwaway line. And suddenly, her feed wasn't so bright. She stopped posting for 2 days. Then 3. When she returned, her eyes were more tired. She posted a story that vanished after an hour, just a black screen with a song about drowning. No words. That night, she called me. First time in weeks. She didn't open with, "Hi." She didn't ask about the kids. She said, "Can you come over?" Her voice had no makeup. Just fear. When I arrived, she looked smaller. Not physically. Just deflated. Like someone let the air out of a version of herself she didn't even realize was a balloon. She showed me the messages. The threats. The screenshots. Police had said the usual, not enough to pursue yet. And so, there I was. The man she had called boring, too grounded, stuck. Now, the only one she trusted to keep her house from becoming a headline. I changed her passwords. Secured the accounts. Got a tech friend to track the IPs. I didn't say much. Just moved with purpose. Quietly. Like always. She sat on the couch afterward, hands in her lap. Said, "I didn't know who else to call." I said nothing. Not because I was cold, but because every part of me that once craved her recognition had finally stopped asking for it. She thanked me. I nodded. Then I left. No hug. No linger. She stayed on the steps, watching me walk away. And for the first time, I think she saw it. Not just the man I used to be, but the man she no longer had access to. A week passed before I heard from her again. She didn't text. She didn't call. But I knew something had shifted, not in public, not in her stories. Those were still polished. Still full of sparkle, smoothie bowls, and sunrise workouts. But the energy had dulled. You can only pose so long before the weight behind your eyes starts leaking through the cracks in the filter. Then, one night, she sent a message. Just a sentence. I didn't value what mattered. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry. Because I knew what that message really was. It wasn't apology. It was grief. She was mourning the version of me she hadn't realized was rare until he was gone. And grief is a personal thing. I wasn't going to participate in hers. A few days later, her friend called James's wife. They were close, those two. Used to go to yoga, spin class, film together. She said my ex had been crying at night. Not for show. Not on live stream. Just quietly. When no one was watching. When the glow of validation faded and all that remained was silence and memory. She said she still had the family photo on her phone. The one we took on the beach 2 summers ago, kids throwing sand. Me holding her waist, both of us laughing. She never posted it. Because it wasn't perfect. My shirt was wrinkled. Her hair was windblown. But now, she looked at it every night. Sometimes that's how life hits you hardest, not with a scandal, or betrayal, or explosion. Just a simple image you never valued. Until you realize it captured a moment you'll never recreate. That week, James told me, she's not doing well. Doesn't say it. But you can see it. I nodded. I wasn't doing well either. But I was moving. Work picked up. The kids were stable. I started journaling again, nothing poetic, just observations. Fragments of thoughts I hadn't dared think out loud. Like, she used to look at me like I was a compass. Now I'm just a map she never reads. Or, you can't force someone to see your value if their mirror only reflects themselves. One night, Ryan asked, "Is Mommy coming with us next weekend?" I said I didn't know. He said, "I hope so, but only if she's the nice mommy." That hit harder than any message. Because the truth of a household lives in children's eyes. And theirs had seen more than we thought. I didn't reply to her message. Didn't send one back. Because I knew she was no longer looking for me. She was looking for the version of herself she used to be when I was around. And some reflections, once shattered, don't come back whole. The collapse wasn't loud. It was subtle, drawn out, like a stage curtain slowly falling after the final scene, when the applause never came. Her posts became less frequent. The tone shifted. Bravado gave way to introspection, though carefully edited. She shared throwbacks. Old clips of family outings, behind-the-scenes shots from the grind. Soft music layered over wistful captions. No more mantras about choosing herself. Now it was lines like, "Sometimes you realize too late what stability felt like." I didn't comment. Didn't even watch most of them. But James told me, she's starting to talk like she's remembering instead of branding. One morning, I got a call. From her number, but not her. It was Emma. She had a project, something about parents and their jobs. She wanted both of us to come to her presentation. Said she didn't want to have to choose. So I said yes. And texted my ex. "I'll be there. You should be too. It's her moment." She replied with a heart. That afternoon, we stood side by side in the back of the classroom. She wore less makeup than usual. Hoodie jeans. Hair tied back. Still beautiful, but more real. Not camera ready, present. When Emma got up to speak, she looked straight at us and said, "My mommy helps people feel better about themselves. My daddy builds things and fixes what's broken." Then she paused. "And they both love me, even if they're not together." I felt something shift. In her. She didn't look at me right away. But when she finally did, there was no performance in it. No angle. No strategy. Just a silent acknowledgement of everything between us. After the presentation, we walked outside together. The kids ran ahead. She said, "I've been thinking a lot." I nodded. "Let her." She added, "I didn't know how far I'd drifted until you weren't there to pull me back." There was no apology in her voice. But there was weight. I said, "You drifted because you wanted wind. I stayed because I believed in anchors." We stood there a moment longer. Not enemies. Not lovers. Just two people who had shared something, lost something, and maybe were ready to look at it without blaming the other for the cracks. When I drove home later, Ryan asked, "Did you and Mom talk?" I said we did. He said, "Was it weird?" I answered honestly, "No, it was just real." And maybe, for the first time in months, that was enough. It was James who finally said what had been circling beneath the surface for weeks. "She's not trying to win you back," he told me. "She's trying to prove she deserves to be heard by you again." I didn't reply, because I knew what he meant. And I knew it was true. She wasn't performing anymore. Not for strangers. Not for me. Not even for herself. She was simply unraveling the armor, slowly, piece by piece, until nothing was left but her, bare and unsure. When she called a few days later, it wasn't dramatic. Just quiet. She asked if we could meet. No kids. No pressure. Just talk. I chose the park near our old neighborhood, not out of nostalgia, but because it was neutral ground. A place where memory wasn't sharp enough to cut, but still familiar enough to sit with. She arrived on time. No makeup. No phone in hand. Hair pulled back like it used to be when we were young, broke, and trying to build something real. We sat on a bench, side by side. She didn't rush. Didn't dive into speeches or apologies. She simply looked ahead and said, "You always made the hard things look easy. I made the easy things look important." I didn't answer right away, because I needed to feel what she meant, not just hear it. Finally, I said, "You wanted to be a queen. I didn't stop you. But a queen without a kingdom is just a username." She didn't cry. She breathed in sharply, then let it out, like someone who'd been holding it too long. "Then, I missed the way I felt when you believed in me. I was better then. Not more liked, just more whole." There was no camera here. No story being built. Just raw confession. And quiet acknowledgement of what neither of us could fix overnight. I told her, "You don't come back as a brand. You come back as a woman. Otherwise, we stay here, Paused, polite, but done. She nodded. Once. Slowly. I'm not asking you to forget. Or forgive today. I just don't want to pretend anymore. We sat there for a while. Not speaking. Watching kids play. Dogs chase frisbees. The sun dropped lower behind the trees. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out something folded. It was that beach photo. Printed, creased at the corners. She said, I never posted it. But I looked at it every day. I didn't take it from her. Because I already had the real version. In my memory, in my hands, in my choices. We left the park separately. But for the first time, we weren't walking away. We were walking forward. And that made all the difference. We didn't announce anything. No captions. No updates. No filtered reunion photos to prove that healing had begun. That wasn't the point anymore. It started with little things. She asked if she could pick up the kids from school more often. Said it helped to feel grounded again. I said yes. Not as a reward. Just because it made sense. Then she dropped off a casserole. Something homemade. Not store-bought. Not branded. Just food in a dish, left on my doorstep with a note. In case you forgot to eat. I hadn't. But I ate it anyway. Then came the evening she knocked on my door, without makeup, wearing the hoodie I used to wear when fixing the car. She stood there, holding a box of old photos. Not to guilt me, just to share. We sat with them, silent, flipping through time. Faces younger, smiles less guarded. I think we both realized something. We'd built a life worth remembering, even if parts of it fell apart. A week later, I invited her to dinner. Not a date, just a meal. At home, with the kids. Ryan couldn't stop smiling. Emma kept asking if we were back together. We didn't answer, because back together felt like a destination. And this wasn't that. This was a path. And we were both just walking. There was no dramatic kiss. No promises made at midnight. Just presence. Small steps. Shared silence that didn't feel cold anymore. She started leaving her phone in another room. Started asking more, posting less. The house didn't get louder. It got warmer. One night, after the kids went to bed, she sat on the couch beside me. Not on top of me. Not performing affection. Just beside. Her hand brushed mine. I didn't move away. She whispered, I'm not here to fix anything. I'm just here. If you'll let me be. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone I hadn't seen in years. Not the influencer. Not the brand. Just the woman who once believed in love before followers, before views, before she needed 1,000 strangers to tell her she mattered. I said, then stay. But we do it slow. Honest. Quiet. She nodded. And that was it. Not a reset. Not a redemption arc. Just a choice. Made not with pride or desperation, but with clarity. And maybe that's all forgiveness really is. Not forgetting. Not pretending it never cracked. Just deciding it's worth holding again, even with the cracks, because this time, both hands are steady. Been through it. When they crossed the line, and you made sure they felt it.